the idea of not knowing who is on the other side of the keyboard, but actually trusting that we're here for that context and for what we're talking, they actually fulfilled something that makes us safe to engage in that conversation. I think it's a dimension that is really unexplored on the internet because we just don't know who is what and who's trying to sell us what and what's the psyops there. That's what Sounds is about.
Hey everyone, welcome to Talking Tokens, a podcast focused on interviewing the best crypto founders, market players, and up-and-coming startups that are changing the industry every single Tuesday and Thursday. I'm Jacquelyn Melinek, your award-nominated host and former senior crypto reporter turned entrepreneur, and I'm excited to be here with you all. Now, let's get into it. Today's guest is Ben Rubin, the CEO and co-founder of Here Not There Labs and Towns, an on-chain messaging platform. Ben is a serial entrepreneur, and he previously founded Meerkat and House Party and has been in the space for a while now. So I'm excited to talk to him about Towns and how he feels about online communities. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. So I mentioned slightly in the intro, kind of your background, but can you kind of walk us through your past and the other startups and like what led you to start Towns?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how deep you want to go with that, but I've studied architecture at school. So I went to, my motivation to go to architecture school was actually about like, how do you create spaces to bring people together and everything in between. And something happened, I don't know what inspired me in the third year that I kind of like felt that there is much more to explore or things that left unexplored in the digital spaces. So I kind of left school and started my first company, which was about live presence on the internet and how to, take a lot of the things that I'm excited about physical buildings and what motivated me to learn about architecture and become an architect of like digital buildings. Mm-hmm. And in a sense, this is was and still is a guiding force in everything that gets me excited. So I kind of consider myself still an architect of digital buildings.
A digital architect, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The first company was called Life on Air, and it had a couple of failed experiments around how to bring people together in the most human way possible when they are apart through mobile live streaming. And the first breakthrough experience was something called Meerkat, which if anyone is, I feel like we all at this point tried, Twitter Live or IG Live, that's the things that we're familiar from Instagram Live and Twitter Live, just like how Snapchat stories, and when we say stories, it's referring to the OG Snapchat stories. The work that Meerkat did with live video is basically very much set the foundation for that. And some point, and we can go to the detail later if it's of interest, that Twitter decided to shut the API because it was Meerkat was about streaming live video on Twitter, and we're like, okay, what should we do now? And we were toying with with different ideas, and then we came up with something called House Party, which was a group video chat that also in a way, I think a lot of how group video chat is today was from the work that we did in House Party. Mm-hmm. And House Party reached about 150 million users, and we sold it to Epic Games, which it's the maker of Fortnite. And that happened in middle of 2019. And then I really wanted to do something that is like House Party, but for work before pandemic. And so we raised money for that, and we started working on it in February 2020. And then pandemic happened, and we were like, nobody knows what's going to happen. Let's start working. But by the time we were in market,
right,
which was like 9 months after or so, nobody wanted to try another group video chat for work.
Yeah, that's when like Zoom became popular and everything. But I feel like, there were competitors. but do you think everyone's like stuck on it?
No, there were competitor, to your point, there were competitor. And I think maybe now it's a good time for people to start, because I think people now are kind of are more open to try different things. But what we try to do with Slashdog was really counterproductive to a instant remote culture, because the idea was like create instant meetings based on topics and not on time. And like when pandemic started, like everyone's calendar and the rigidity of it was very important, because everybody was in different places. And so if you schedule something for 4 p.m., you better show up in 4 p.m. Right. So right product, wrong time. But
so what about towns? Where did the inspiration for towns come from, and how did that all come about after all this?
So after that, and that's basically that's the company Here Now There was founded with the idea of Slashdog, which is what I said. We're a team of 6 people at the time, and we were like, okay, what's exciting to us? Because we're thinking about new modalities of communication, and it's kind of like being an artist. It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. It's more the motivation and the statement and the context in which you put your energy into. And for the longest time, and a bunch of folks in the team were ex-House Party or ex-Skype, which is my co-founder. And we were very excited about this new graph that is coming. And it's the on-chain transaction graph, right? So it's, I feel like when people say crypto, and a lot of the time people ask me, so now you're a crypto founder? I'm like, I'm still like a communication founder. And I'm just really excited about the idea that you have this new emerging graph that is about, it's not about address book. It's not about a friends graph. It's not about following follower graph. It's actually about, what have you actually done as a user? Are you a real user? What did you do? And that type of reputation is one of the things that is, I feel, 13 years building communication for people is one of the things that is missing from, it's a dimension that is missing from how we converse online, especially as we venture out from the small group chats of these are all the people I know. And I'm very curious about what a permissionless group chat would look like about politics, for example, where it is cryptographically proven that people either donated in a certain way or voted in a certain way. And how do they...
it's like verifying that they were a part of it, right? Or like proving... If I am a fan of a certain artist, I've been to a concert or I've been like, I follow them on Instagram or whatever it may be, like verifying that I'm actually a fan. I'm not just like.
Exactly. And to your point, so when you that's a perfect like kind of setup to explain like what Towns is. Towns is permissionless group chats, and there's a protocol called River. We can go into that later. But the idea is the town, instead of organizing a group chat on address book or a friends graph or like, this person or not, you can set up a group chat and say, let's say to your example, if you can prove, if there's some on-chain footprint that somebody went to a concert multiple times, you can create a Taylor Swift group chat that says anyone who went to 5 out of 10 concerts in the past 12 months can come in. And I think it does 2 things. It keeps it permissionless. So I'm not some tyrant who decides who gets to come to my Taylor Swift, fan club.
Right.
I can just put it on the internet, and whoever qualify can actually comes in. And it does, and by that it expands the reach, but it still makes it intimate, which is, I think, an attention that I really like. The idea of not knowing who is on the other side of the keyboard, but actually trusting that for that context and for what we're talking, they actually fulfilled something that makes us safe to engage in that conversation. I think it's a dimension that is really unexplored on the internet because we just don't know who is what and who's trying to sell us what and what's the psyops there. And anyways, that's what Stans is about. You know, I was at.
No, I was going to say, I think it's also interesting in the sense that like I have interests and I have like, you know, some friends that are interested in the things that I like, but not everyone's going to love everything that I love. Right. And so if I could just put it out there and say, hey, I really like, you know, this city or this type of food or this artist, and then what it would like populate other people who also feel the same way and share that with me.
If they choose to come,
if they also like it,
if you find the onchain footprint and you start the group chat, you set it up to point out to those footprint. Towns have a no code like interface to just quickly set it up, much quicker than setting up anything else that like a Discord server or whatever. But once you point out to those footprints, anyone who qualifies, who has that footprints, will be able to join. You know, so
but you need a footprint.
It could be. You have to have a footprint. You know, and people, our bet in a sense is that more and more things going to have a footprint, especially like everything exists in a balance. I know it sounds, but think about it because it's really interesting to me that AI is kind of like growing super fast, and AI is about replication of consensus, and it's highly centralized. And it's interesting to me the duality between the idea that, you know, 3, 5, 10 years from now, somebody can replicate your image, your likeness, how you talk, what you're saying, how you would react to me answering your question. And at the same time, so there's going to be thousands of you, you know, and hopefully we all benefit from that. But then how do we know that you are you? And that it's an interesting dynamic between how do we enumerate on the internet who is what and what did they do, which is the blockchain technology, and the rise of AI. And I find it to be, obviously I'm talking my own book here, but like I think that there's going to be more and more cases where there is, unbeknownst to the users, or like obviously they understand it, like we understand that Facebook has servers, but there is some footprint that exists and is verifiable.
I feel like today, though, there is this kind of footprint out there already where, you know, people, I have a lot of videos out there because I do podcasts, I moderate, etc. And I am by no scale at the same level as, like, you know, for example, like Donald Trump. There could be a lot of deepfakes of him, or back to Taylor Swift, like you said, deepfakes. But I also think there is this like online footprint that's existed ever since social media kind of began. Like I remember growing up, my parents and my teachers would always say, like, be careful what you put online, be careful what you put online, because it'll always exist online. You know, the internet is forever. But you're talking about it from a positive light, where it'll exist forever in a good way, where people can learn from me, even if it's not me? Or am I getting that wrong?
It's more, so even though the footprint exists on Facebook, it exists to only users of Facebook, and a lot of websites that tried or have tried to scrape that information are not able to access it or verify it. That what you put online, what your parents warn you to, you know, be careful and make sure that you have some, you know, understand that there's an intention behind how you come across. It's still siloed. Even, you know, you need to view those things. We all clicked a link on Instagram. It's just like, you're leaving Instagram. Are you sure you want to continue? You know, it's like those closed walls actually, they really benefit the companies that close them. But I think they create a big disadvantage to us as users. And because and even then there's a lot of self-attestation, which is different. And I get it, because there are some history of usage on the profile when you go to Facebook. But even now, even with that, you still get the friends that somebody copied their entire Instagram profile and now have like the same name with like another N, and it looks exactly the same. And there's no way to verify that. And then you start thinking about like, okay, who is this person that replies to me on Twitter? What is this? I'm clicking on something. What is this article that I'm reading that look legit, but who knows this, I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah.
From your past startups, how do you kind of carry your experiences and lessons there into Towns now? Like, what did you learn from, Meerkat or House Party that you're either carrying with you to build Towns, or things that you've learned that, hey, I don't want to bring that over to this startup?
Oh, there's a lot of things I don't want to bring over.
I mean, you're a serial entrepreneur. So what I'm asking is kind of like, what are the lessons you've learned and how are you going to carry those through?
For sure.
Right?
I really pay attention to default. I think they say like God is in the details, and I think the devil is in the defaults. I think that's for every relationship we have with our body, with what we eat, with how we exercise, with how we sleep. It's easy to live a sad, rigid life, and it's much more interesting to have a more permissioned life that has good default. And I think...
What do you mean by that?
I think it's important to allow exceptions, right? Dennis Rodman and the Chicago Bulls, like that guy on paper should not be on like based on behaviors and stuff. Like, no, coaches should not allow that.
Yeah.
I love the guy. I love the guy, but like, just like if we're just keeping it to like rigid, is this person qualified to represent, but that kind of elasticity that says like, no, we're going to have a good default for the team, and we're going to allow that because together it brings something that is better. And I think the same thing, this is coaching a team, and I think in a way, maybe for me, maybe that's my journey, but like the first startup was, a lot of it was about me and my ideas. And I feel like it's kind of like a journey that I see a lot of people go through, and it's just kind of, you try to prove yourself that the move from one thing to another, for my case, was from architecture school, and doing this, you try to prove that you were right. And that kind of changes the dynamic, and it moved to something that is more, this time around and progressively, more about coaching and more about bringing the best out of the team. So beyond defaults, the second thing I would say is I don't think about flowers, I think about planters. So when I think about a team, I think about, do we have the right water? Do we have the right soil? Does it get sun? And I try not to think about what are we going to grow, because I think good things are going to come out of it. What other lessons? I think especially if you, again, this is my own experience and probably projecting a lot of my own insecurities here, but being an immigrant, came to the state when I was 25. I'm 36, almost 37 now. Barely spoke English, and also didn't have any, alumni or, network or money or anything. And I think that led to some inferiority, not even complex, more like acceptance even, which is worse. And I always think that I fuck up much bigger than what is allowed, and especially what is allowed in America's School of Business. In America's School of Business, part of the school of thought that is it's okay to fail. It's okay to, they underwrite the growth with some acceptance for failure. I feel that I used to, and now less and less, used to be much more timid about asking what I want, because I always thought that I'm underperforming. Welcome to the therapy session, Jackie.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And thank you for sharing that. When it comes to building towns, it hasn't launched yet, right? It's launching in...
So it's available. It's on mainnet. We haven't made it. We haven't said, come everyone, join towns. It's
private, right now.
If you get a link from somebody, you're able to join, you're able to create towns. There are a few thousands of real users and much more bots, but thank God we can kind of understand the bots from China and Russia and who are real users. But there's a few thousands of users that are using it, and we learn a lot from this and getting ready for launch. But yeah, the way it's kind of the way it is out there is if you go to the website, you cannot really find a way to get in. But as we're introducing it to more and more people, they get into a town. And then when they create their own town and send links, other people can come. And this is kind of a more controlled way for us to, because I can only assume that we're fucking up big time, slowly and just.
Why? What makes you say that?
Maybe it's connected to the previous topic, but it just takes time to get a product to do what it's supposed to do. It takes time for it. And when I say fuck up, it's for me, if you're waiting for something 4 seconds, it's.
Okay. So bugs, little fixes with the platform, not actual,
Oh, okay. No, none of that thing. More
what are you talking about?
I'm too hard on myself. Yeah. But, it's and I think just like art, it's so hard to ask somebody for attention. And when you get that attention, it's magical, right? You have maybe 15 seconds to convince somebody that they should spend another 30 seconds. And then you have 30 seconds to convince somebody that they're maybe going to open the app tomorrow, and then you got another, and then all of these things add up. And
I will say, though, I feel like on social media, people, it's not that they have our attention on posts. If you're on TikTok, people scroll so fast, or Instagram, you'll look at a photo for a second. But the actual platform itself has your attention for a long amount of time. I know I scroll on Twitter a lot when I'm not working. And even honestly when I'm working, because it's part of the crypto culture. But how do you think you can retain the same attention grasp that social media has with something like towns or on-chain messaging or these Web3 consumer apps that are being built out there? What do you think would be the secret sauce that brings people to them? This podcast is sponsored by Galaxy. If you're immersed in the world of Web3, Galaxy is a name you need to know. As a decentralized super app with an impressive 21 million users boasting over 100 million monthly transactions, Galaxy is elevating its impact with Gravity, the magnet chain for Web3. Gravity is designed for full chain abstraction, zero knowledge proof-based privacy, and rapid transaction speeds, all coming together to offer an unparalleled user experience. Gravity opens the door for developers to effortlessly build on the largest on-chain distribution platform, and for users, it promises an even smoother, more secure journey through Web3. It's not about being on-chain, it's about being on the right chain every single time. Galaxy is on a mission to onboard the world to Web3, and Gravity is the magnetic force that will propel the vision forward. Ready to launch your Web3 journey? Build the future on Gravity. Visit gravity.xyz for more information.
For us, it's going to be a completely different feeling. And the different feeling that you're going to that you're going to feel is not because we created a better group chat. Group chats are pretty solved, and not because we're going to get better content, but we are going to have better interest alignment between you and the other people in the group. And I do think for me, it's missing from online conversation to trust or understand. It's not that I don't trust. It's just like walking in the street, you know, you kind of like know where the sketchy areas are, and you kind of like, okay, the way this person approaches seems a little bit funky, and like, maybe I shouldn't go there and there. And that's a lot of your intuitions. But it's really cool to go to somebody's birthday party when you know, like, when you can trust that the people come there have the kind of like the same attitude to what we're going to do today and how this party is going to unfold, because you know your friends, you know their friends of friends, you trust their friends of friends. And in a sense, I want to engage on the internet in a more meaningful way with people that not just say that they are doing what they say that they're doing, that I can actually trust that they're doing what they're doing, because I want to learn more about, you know, I learned piano and jazz. I still don't feel like I know even more than 1% of what I want to know about food in New York and where to go to eat. I always feel like what people think is great and what I think is great is just so different. And I continue to be amazed about how many amazing restaurants are out there that nobody's speaking about. And if you're going and searching for great food in New York, you're definitely not going to find the things that are, you know, great for you. And it's interesting how we can organize or start organizing the internet based on shared reputation. And it's, you know, that we view as reputation, that people that choose to come together view as this is what's reputable here for us. And I think that's a new feeling. I think that's a new feeling of like joining something that you have no clue who are these people, but you absolutely know that they're diehard fans of the same band, or that they all contributed to the project that you have contributed for, and they ranked in a certain way. You know, on towns, some people create, there's a group chat that is like rugged people. And it's like all the people that got liquidated, you know, all the people that got liquidated.
That's a real therapy session.
And it's funny because like, if you did not get liquidated in a certain amount on Maker, like you can only read what people say.
Yeah, you can't be a part of the discussion. Yeah,
you cannot, and I think that's the sauce. That's the feeling. It's not about new. It's not about a new type of group chat you haven't seen. Like, you know, just like video. It's
like shared experiences. You know? Yeah, exactly. You have to be able to actually.
How do we bring shared experience? I'm going to take it. I'm going to take that phrase.
Shared experiences. Jackie. Yeah. How do we bring shared experiences? A little equity on that. No.
Sounds good. Yeah, I will send you a River token.
I would love that. Speaking of River, you brought it up in the beginning. What is River's role within all of this? Can you explain what it is for our listeners who don't know? And then how does it play into towns?
Yeah. So we're trying to create permissionless group chat. And in order to do that and make sure that we have an independent backend that is supporting what we're trying to do, which is bringing that feeling, bringing people that didn't know they have a shared experience together to a group chat that they now can say, you know, oh, I'm here. I don't know you, but I do know that we had a shared experience. That's a really good point. And at the beginning, we thought, you know, there's this protocol that is like an open source protocol that is about self-described as decentralized messaging. We're going to extend it. It has no blockchain component. We're going to extend it so it can read into blockchain and do what we're trying to do, which is to organize group chats around blockchain transactions as a graph. That protocol, it's called Matrix protocol. They had no interest in our pull request to add anything that has anything to do with blockchain. And at the same time, as we're diving into it, we also learned that a lot of the things that you would need in order to create a truly permissionless protocol we will not be able to achieve through that. So then we're like, okay, we need to build our own protocol for that, because a lot of the protocols that we see for messaging have messages on chain, and blockchain is really a terrible technology for doing that use case. It's a great ledger, to just like say who did what. But if you're trying to send a message to a large group chat and you want the other person, you want 10,000 people to see a message under 200 milliseconds, like, don't use the blockchain to do that. It's going to be expensive and they're going to see it not immediately. So we set out to build a bespoke app chain that does some trade-offs to get to liveliness. And that means is that it's not that River Protocol is not about moving assets. It's about moving messages, and it's end-to-end encrypted. So if you play the bad actor, there's really nothing to exploit from like moving hash, like end-to-end encrypted, like there's nothing for them to gain. So that allowed us to actually repurpose the app chain to be focused specifically on moving messages. And maybe I'm rambling too much about the technicalities of it, but River is a social messaging protocol that is end-to-end for messages that are end-to-end encrypted. And it is able through a network of nodes to look at any EVM compatible on-chain footprint and resolve arguments like only allow people in if they did certain things, if we see certain things on chain. Or you can get more creative because the set of smart contracts of River actually represent each space in Town's the client. It's called Town, but each space has its own smart contract, and that smart contract has all the entitlements that are for the group, like moderator roles and who can read, who can write, react, redact, things that you would expect. So if you're an engineer, you can get really expressive in like, okay, like I want programmatically on the fly to create these roles and give these moderation roles or create these channels based on things that are happening on chain. Each space has its own treasury. River, the way River accrue value is because space owners can decide how they want to issue membership to their space, like paid membership, algorithmic membership, fixed price membership.
That's interesting.
And River takes just like small part of it when it's being sold to people who want to participate. There was an idea the other day that I heard. Somebody wanted to look at all the biggest crypto hacks that have been in the past 5 years and look at all the hackers' wallets and create a hacker town that only gives the hackers the ability to write and everybody else can only read, and try to get this town to be viral. So hopefully some of the hackers see it, then join, and then wow, like this is a conversation by the people who like are the biggest troublemakers. I don't know where it went and if they did it, but it's an interesting use case.
Yeah, no, that is super interesting. Do you kind of see towns as something for Web3 audiences then? Or are you trying to appeal it to Web 2? Or, I mean, like, what's the go-to-market strategy to start? And then, like, over time, hopefully, I would imagine you want this to be a mainstream thing.
So, absolutely. And when you log into towns now, it just looks very familiar to anything Web 2 that you would know. You are not, the defaults, talking about defaults, are not connecting your wallet. We have embedded wallet, structured accounts, smart accounts, all of these things happen in the background. And then later, if you want to, if you do understand what it means, because you came through this platform, because you're supporting or part of some group that has some on-chain footprint, then you can easily find a way to we call it escalation or friction to link your wallet and do the proofs that you need to do. But we're definitely appealing to groups that have a cultural point of view that is not necessarily crypto for crypto, but also believes in internet ownership as something that is part of the future. And yes, that's Web3 in the sense that people need to know a little bit about it. So it's not that you need to know about it in order to use it, because you will be able to use it. It's just you wouldn't quite understand why you shouldn't use Discord if you don't understand the part of like oh, that actually,
yeah,
exactly, that, because that's what you call the secret sauce. That's the thing. It's the idea that, oh, when I'm here, it's like these people, I don't know who they are, but they are really good at what they do because I can trust that.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think, sorry, go on.
No. I'm over talking. So
You're good.
Shut up.
You're the guest. We want you to talk. It's better if you talk than if you don't talk. But do you think the online presence of people interacting with others is shifting, like the way people want to engage online, opposed to, let's say, early days, it was so cool to be able to like post a Facebook status or message each other on like instant message. Like I remember AIM. And then like to where we are now, there's this rise of like influencers and content creators and all these different categories. But what do you see as like the next sector where people want to engage online?
I don't know how this will going to come across, but I'm going to go for it.
Go for it.
I don't think that how we posture ourselves in real life and online is ever going to change from the basic motivation of getting closer to a safe environment.
Okay.
Or getting closer to finding a mate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everything we're doing online or in person is a different type of coping with the idea that we want to feel safe and reproduce. Like if you go all the way, you know, and reproduction, it's not necessarily about having kids. I think for the most part it is, but it's also about co-creation or things that you want to bring into the world. Mm-hmm. And I think doing that and feeling safe to do that, these are the things that got people on WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, every breakout experience.
I think I can follow that. Yeah. Like to appeal to others. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to appeal to others and also get some affirmation that what you're doing is correct. So you feel safer. And when you feel safer, you potentially, you know, can get closer to whatever it is that for you is true meaning of how you replicate yourself, you know, and so I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah.
But I do think that we find different ways to take a point of view on that. I think reputation on the internet and that dimension to bring people in a way that is more intimate, but not smaller, which is what Towns is going to do, what's River is doing. I think that's a new point of view of how can I feel close to somebody, not because I know them, but because I trust that we had a shared experience, right? Mm-hmm. And we are having a shared experience. I believe this is missing, but yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense. When it comes to the Web3 based communities that are out there today, what do you think about them? Where are they succeeding? Where are they falling short? And like, how does Towns want to position itself in that?
I have two thoughts come to my head about this because, so first as I said, I was in Fest, FWB Fest. It was like 2 weeks ago.
Friends with Benefits or
yes,
no, the FWB Fest. I think it is. I don't think it is Friends with Benefits, but that's the acronym that would usually go with it. It's like optimism, kind of. right? Like the super chain?
No. Friends and Benefit is basically a community that is organized as a DAO.
Okay, so it is actually the Friends with Benefits DAO. Okay, yes, then I do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You're right. Go on.
And I was there to I'm a member, and I was there for the fest. It was my first year, and I'm like, that is awesome. Like, people are just, and I was like, I see it in some places on the internet, but what I've seen and felt in real life, it's like exactly the kind of excitement and motivation of people who are like, believe in new modalities and mediums of how to express themselves, and also believe that some of the part of supporting it is rooted in leveraging blockchain into organizing like this, because we're more global and we want to be able to bring forward more ideas through things that are less centralized, right? So I would love to see more of that, and I hope that I can, with our work with Towns and River and my personal work and vocation, I can support more of that and be part of more of that, even if a tiny part of that. The other thing that I've seen through as as the medium that of my work as is more on the crypto side, because that's the kind of like transition with this company. I've noticed a lot of dogmatic founders, like it has to be 100% decentralized, 100% this, 100% that.
Right.
And actually, to the point about rigidity and default, I think that there is a lot of taste and class in finding what is the best experience for the user, for the person who's going to experience that enjoys a lot of that and benefits from the upside of using a blockchain, and where it's going to actually not make sense beyond serving your own ego, that all this friction is introduced, So I wish there was less dogmatism in the builders who are smart and have great ideas, but we can nuance 5% of them down and have a better experience to the users.
No, I hear you. I think there is a fair amount of ego in this space, but that's a whole other conversation that we don't need to get into. My last major question for you, Ben, is Towns is in its early stages. Where do you want it to go? Like, if we could have this conversation in, let's say, even like 2 years, where do you kind of see Towns, let's say, in 2 years?
I hope that it's in a place where when you ask me, I say, I don't fucking know, because I don't control on these things, and people are just have their own ideas and they're taking it out, and I have no more control on this. I hope to get to that point in 2 years where
you don't have a say.
I was just exactly. And I really didn't mean for that answer to come after you talked about ego. But I really think that the true divine contribution that can happen is when you're no longer part, like you're behind the scenes. The team, all of the people that created that planner are just like, not there anymore. And it has its life of its own, because then we created something,
It's self-fulfilling.
So I hope we get it. So I hope we get to that point.
Yeah.
I hope it's exciting enough for people to take that and run with it and do what they think.
Okay. I guess we'll have to see. Last thing, Ben, can you leave us with a piece of advice, something that you've learned throughout your time being an entrepreneur? Intuition is right 100% of the time. It's how we interpret it is that we need to work on. And it's absolutely
maybe the most important thing to learn is to learn your intuition and how to listen to it, because that's where the upside is. That's where the upside is. It's all about your point of view that is different than the market. And that's only the intuition can tell you that.
I agree. Not everyone listens to their intuition though, but that's not the point. The advice is that they should, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's always working.
Yeah. Ben, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Jackie. It was really great. And I'm sorry for the lights going on and
You're good. I had a great time.
Thanks
Hopefully
again.
Just some of it gets to.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.